Hello and welcome to another reaction video. My name is Tim Montgomerie and I'm really delighted today to be joined by Richard Tice, leader of the Reform Party. Why have I invited Richard to join us today? Well, I think we're at quite a moment in British politics. For 15, 20 years, the Conservative Party has had a party keeping it honest. It was UKIP, it was the Brexit Party. It was a party that made Tory MPs worry about the future of their electoral prospects. And last week, of course, we saw the Conservative Party raise national insurance. Taxes are now at one of their highest levels in the post-war period. There is chaos in the Channel as Britain struggles to control its borders. And then there are, of course, all of the controversies over COVID passports and the restrictions that we've lived under over the last few years. But Boris and his cabinet don't seem overly worried. And what I wanted to do today with Richard was to try and make the case or investigate as the case as to whether they should be. Richard, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's a great pleasure, Tim. Thank you for having me on board. And it's a fascinating time, as you say, in politics. I've been sort of looking forward to the moment when more people realized that we were under the highest taxation, the highest tax take for 70 years. I've been talking about it for 6 months, and eventually the pennies dropped, and it's really, really serious, Tim. It's it's one of the defining issues, I think, of the next couple of years.
Yeah. Well, you produced a graph, I think, at the Reform Party 6 months ago, didn't you?
I did. I produced it exactly. I produced an economic vision, what we want to do, our economic plan, and we had a graph in that showed how taxes would be the highest for 70 years. We talked about the fact that the growth rate forecast was going to be the lowest for 60 years. So yeah, we've been, in a sense, we've been ahead of most people in understanding the risks to what's going on and putting forward a really credible tax cutting, regulation cutting, high growth alternative.
Yeah. Well, look, I want to come on to where you are at the moment in a couple of minutes, because there was an opinion poll last week that had you on 5%, a YouGov opinion poll in the Times. But let's, Richard, just establish who you are for a moment, if we may. I remember having a dinner with you in the Tory party conference a few years ago, and I think you were interested in standing as the Conservative candidate for Mayor of London. Since then, you have been helping Nigel Farage with the Brexit Party. You fought a very strong campaign to keep the Brexit process moving along. And you're a businessman by background. Have I missed out any important ingredients?
No, Tim, you've absolutely nailed it. Originally, I was a businessman for 30 years. I've still got some, and that's in commercial and residential property. I've still got some business interests. That sort of, I say that pays the bills. And politics is, I used to call it the night job, but it's become the day job.
Well, I have to say, I'm very impressed when the Zoom opened up this morning and I saw all your branding behind you. You're very on message already. But where are you going, Richard? What do you see as the Reform Party's mission? Because you obviously have inherited the Brexit Party identity. You've still got the same colour and the same graphics, but you've lost Nigel Farage. I think he's what's his relationship with you now? Is he a member?
So Nigel's honorary president.
Yeah.
And so he gives me some useful tips in my ear. He's a very useful sounding board, but as you know, he's got his own high-profile media career that he's pursuing very successfully.
Yeah. And you're the leader. Who else, perhaps, that people might recognise is involved in your party?
So I'm the leader, and then I've got a deputy leader who is Dr. David Bull, who was an MEP for the Brexit Party. Yeah. He was a medical doctor, worked in A&E for many years, then was on TV, so he's well known. Our leader in Scotland is Michelle Ballantyne. She previously was a Conservative MSP, and so yeah, we've got and essentially we're growing, and it's a bit like we're hoping from a small acorn to grow into a mighty oak, Tim. That's the analogy. That's the plan.
And a lot of those, because I remember David Bull when he was on the Conservative candidates list in years past. You sound like you're quite a conservative at least in terms of backgrounds, quite a conservative orientated party. Is that fair?
Well, look, I think we have sort of the same similar principles, similar values, insofar as we believe in individual responsibility. We believe in a small state, but then things have, in a sense, shifted. And I know it's a bit of a cliche, but the Conservative Party moved away from us. And I now call them the con-socialists, not the conservatives, because they've now become the party of high taxation, high regulation, and that leads, in like night follows day, that leads to low growth, and it leads to big state, and that's a disastrous prospect for the UK. It's previously been rejected, and it's not what they were elected to do. So, we feel that they've moved essentially that you can't really put a cigarette paper between them and the Labour Party now. There's a huge gap in where Conservatives traditionally sat, which is in a high growth, low taxation, smart regulation environment, because that's the only way you can get higher wages. It's the only way you get higher tax revenues to invest in much more efficient reformed public services.
I have a lot of sympathy with what you've just said, and I've always been a conservative who believes that the kind of reforms that Margaret Thatcher brought through in the 1980s, cutting tax, cutting regulation, explain the British Renaissance. Really, we were the sick man of Europe, and we became one of Europe's strongest economies. My concern, from sort of an electoral positioning for your point of view, is actually a lot of the reforms that Margaret Thatcher made weren't popular at the time. People liked their benefits, they liked their state services, and actually the tax cuts, the economic reforms, the privatizations, they worked, but actually they were carried, the popularity of the Thatcher government owed much more, for example, to the Falkland Islands campaign, or tough approach to law and order, etc. So how do you, as an insurgent party...
I'm going to slightly challenge that, Tim.
Good. Take me on.
Margaret Thatcher was popular because she made people wealthier. She made people more prosperous. Earnings went up, growth went up. And actually, it was some of the most dispossessed people who occupied council houses. They actually benefited, arguably, amongst the most, because they were able to buy their council houses. They did very well out of that. That put them on, a growth profile. People did well out of Mrs. Thatcher. She rewarded hard work, and the vast majority of people in this country, I think, saw that, and I think that's the danger of high taxation. If you tax people too highly.
Richard, I'm going to push back on you now, because I'm not disagreeing with any of that. Absolutely, she made people wealthier, and she worried about the lower middle class voters. She wasn't just interested in a party of the rich, but it was more the fruits of her policies rather than the policies themselves that were popular. I think part of your challenge is to convince the sort of people that voted for the Brexit party, who Seb Payne, who's just written from the Financial Times, who's just written a book on Labour's broken heartland. His argument is actually they're quite sympathetic to some of the bigger spending policies of this con-socialist government. How do you respond to that? Do you disagree with that analysis?
So I think actually what people want is smart spending, and people want efficient public services that work. So our economic vision is very clear. I want to take 6 million of the lowest earners out of paying any income tax by lifting the threshold from 12.5 grand to 20 grand. The Tories want to bring 1 million more of the lowest paid into paying income tax. Unbelievable. I want to take 1 million businesses out of paying any corporation tax by lifting the threshold from 0 to 100 grand a year. That way the money will circulate through the economy more. Business people and its individuals will always spend £1 in their pocket better, with more value, than a civil servant spending it on their behalf. And so that's one side of it. Yes, I want a much better run public services, and we're going to be talking a lot about health. And in a sense, we know we need to spend more on health, but the ludicrous decisions announced last week of just pouring billions of pounds, tens of billions of pounds into an unreformed NHS. The government's got no ambition to reduce waiting lists. It's at over 5 million, and all they're trying to do is to stop it rising to 10 or 15 million. We're very clear. I want to be bold and ambitious, Tim. We want zero waiting lists. I mean zero. We've become brainwashed in this country that we have to accept waiting lists. You look around the developed world, most nations with a variety of different healthcare systems have zero waiting lists. Why do we accept them at all? Why don't we be bold and ambitious to say, we're a great nation, we're an incredible nation. The idea of a waiting list when you're in agony, pain and suffering is ludicrous. And our plans will put the power in the hands of the patient, and we will target zero waiting lists. And you know what? I think people of whatever walk of life, whether you're from Hartlepool or Hampstead, will find that very attractive.
I wonder why you're mentioning Hartlepool, the former seat you stood in.
Because I've got an emotional attachment to it, Tim.
And when you say zero waiting list, it's a lovely idea. How do you get there? I'm assuming it's not spending, from what you just said. Which is the model around the world of healthcare that you would like Britain to mostly?
Let's be absolutely clear. You know, the NHS is the most loved healthcare system in the world, but no one would claim it's the best managed or the most efficient. And you know, our average spending is our healthcare spending is around about average.
Yeah.
It's going to need some more money in the short term, but what you've got to do is you've got to put the power in the hands of the patient. Okay, and I'm going to be talking later this month about the detail of how you do that. At the moment, it's a monopoly provider, and you, the patient, have to wait gratefully, standing in a queue, in the hope that a GP might ring you up in 2 weeks' time, in the hope that a consultant might see you in 4 to 6 months' time, and you hope that he's got your medical records there when you get there. And if not, you've got to wait another 6 months, in the hope that you might be allocated an operation in a year's time. You know, if you haven't already, you know, basically been forced to scrimp and scrape your savings because you're in such agony. That's totally unacceptable. And we'll be putting forward a scheme that puts the power in the hands of the patient, but let's be absolutely clear, of course, it's free at the point of delivery. But what you need to do is you need to dramatically increase the capacity of healthcare provision in the UK. And that's what we'll get to.
So Richard Tice, I put it to you as I listened to you set out your manifesto, part of your manifesto, and I've agreed with all of it so far, is you sound an awful lot more like a Thatcherite to me than a Faragista. You sound like you're emphasizing economic choice, patient choice. I'm not hearing what I think I associated with Nigel Farage's successful era, you know, the Euroscepticism, the tough approach to immigration, the tough approach to crime. Is that the other half of Reform's message, or actually are you a different beast for a different time?
Look, I'm my own man, let's be absolutely clear. So whatever people call, you know, the Tice agenda, let's call it that. Yeah. I'm into common sense solutions to the problems that affect people's daily lives. And I believe the 3 or 4 key things. One is just people want wage growth. We're just beginning to see that, but you need economic growth to get consistent wage growth. You get that by cutting taxes, cutting regulation. I want brilliant public services. I want zero waiting lists. I want zero. I like the word zero as well, actually. I want zero tolerance on crime, antisocial behaviour, and on illegal immigration across the channel. Zero tolerance. Yep. Because I've always said I want to welcome smart, lawful immigration that helps our economy with the skills we're short of. And of course, we play our part, for example, where there's genuine persecution of asylum seekers, such as what we've just sadly seen with Afghanistan. We've always been a hospitable, welcoming nation. And we need to maintain that. We're in a danger, because of the quantity of illegal immigration coming across the channel, we're in a danger that may be, in a sense, slightly lost. So we've just got to be competent at all this stuff. Yeah. And I think that's what people of all walks of life, they just want things to work properly and not to waste money, but just spend it properly. And if you cut out the waste, Tim, there's tens of billions every year to invest in better public services. Is
there really? We hear this from politicians all the time about cutting.
Tim, listen, I'm a businessman. The government's spending about £1 trillion a year. I promise you, if I came in with some people from the private sector who know how to buy things, know how to organise contracts. I think we could save 40 to 50 billion pounds a year within about 12 to 18 months. Not a problem. You need competent business-like people to come in and say, we're going to roll our sleeves up and we're going to sort this job out.
I wonder about that, because I think, Francis Moore tried to do that with lots of private sector people during the Osborne years. Let's park that, if you don't mind, just for a minute. Wouldn't you be more credible, sort of, if you said to people you wanted to do things like scrap HS2, stop 50% of young people going to university, for example? Isn't it actually about a reshaping of the state rather than cutting waste?
We've always campaigned to scrap HS2. I was one of the early people that said students are being ripped off. I wrote about it with a big report in 2017. We're very clear. There should be many more 2-year degrees, not 3-year degrees, so that students can save money. I've always said our policy is there should be 0 interest on student loans. And then again, you're putting the choice in the hands of the student. If the student wants to stay 3 years, fine. If they want to have a shorter degree and save money and do it in 2 years, good luck to them. That's about consumer choice. And it's all about the individual choice, putting power back into the hands of the individual, not the state. So yeah, let's in business, the first loss is the best loss. HS2 is a disaster. The bill's going to 200 billion, not 100 billion. So, cut it now. Yes, it might have cost 15, 20 billion, but I'm telling you, the first loss is the best loss. And there's, we're crystal clear on that.
Yeah, okay. One word I don't think we've mentioned yet, neither of us, is pensioner. You call the Conservative Party the con-socialists. I'm not really sure what the Conservative Party does stand for anymore. It's certainly not low taxation, certainly not low regulation, certainly doesn't seem to be national defence after the debacle in Afghanistan. If there was a description for the Conservative Party, it would be the party of the elderly. It seems to worry a great deal about looking after pensioners above everyone else. And my goodness, we need to look after our pensioners. They deserve every respect. But the opinion poll that I mentioned earlier, where you were 5% in YouGov, the slippage in Tory support didn't seem, if you look at the tabs, didn't seem to me to be so much about a response by working age voters against the NI hike. It was actually about an upset from pensioners. It's a one poll, not much data, so let's not read too much into it. But it seemed to be pensioners perhaps unhappy about the dilution of the triple lock that gives pensioners a guaranteed increase in income. If you're going to really start worrying Tory MPs, Richard, I wonder how much you have to have something that will take away older voters from the Tory party. What's your message to any pensioners watching this video now? Why should they vote for the Reform Party?
I think across all age groups, Tim, the message that's coming through loud and clear this week, and we've been inundated, is people don't trust a single word this government says about anything. They flip-flop on all these different issues. So whether you're a young person who wants to go to a nightclub, and you've no idea if you've got to have a vaccine passport or not, whether you are an elderly person,
I think it's Tuesday, isn't it? So I don't know. Wednesday, the policy will probably be different.
Who knows? Whereas pensioners, they don't know whether to trust the government on their manifesto promises. If they're working a bit later now, all of a sudden they've got to start paying national insurance. If they're working after retirement age. So look, no one can trust a word this government says. And I think the moment a government loses the trust of people across all age ranges, I think they're in a very bad place. And the reality is, a lot of people still haven't really heard of us. But those who have are starting to say, these folks are worth a look. This looks quite interesting. I've read their plan. I can buy into some of that. And as better than most, Tim, you're never going to agree with every policy. Politics is a manifesto or a sort of a plan of things is always a slight compromise. And you'll say, well, of the 10 issues, I like 7. I'm not so sure about 3, but on balance, I think these folks are trustworthy and I think they're competent. And that's our job of work. But we are, be under no illusion, we're full steam ahead, preparing for the next general election.
Okay. And what are the milestones on your way for the general election? What should we look for? Because you tied up with Lawrence Fox in the recent London mayoral elections, and that didn't go quite so well from a popularity point of view. What if I am, because I'm still trying to influence the Conservative Party from the inside, Richard. I'm not a migrant.
I've not got you yet.
No, you haven't, I'm afraid. But I am kind of wanting you to succeed, because I want that role of, a party breathing down the neck of the Conservative Party. I probably see you more of as a useful sort of protest group rather than a political party. So give me some reassurance that you're building, that you're going to cause the Conservative Party's trouble.
We're working on the basis that the election will be in the summer of 23, not 24, because the risks.
I agree with you on that.
The risks for the Tories grow and grow for a bunch of reasons, whether it's taxation, low economic growth, no impact on waiting lists. So that's our expectation, and our plan is very clear. We'll be standing everywhere. We won't stand in Northern Ireland. So give or take, it's about 600 seats. We may miss a few here and there, but that's the target. I've got 250 as we speak here today, starting to be trained. We've trained 100. By Christmas, I think we'll have 400. By the middle of next year, we'll be pretty much there. So there's then
these are candidates or agents?
These are candidates.
These are candidates, yeah.
These are candidates. So we will have 600 candidates at the election.
Yeah.
And I've got 250 now. And
we thought is Lawrence Fox one of them, by the way?
Lawrence, as you know, is leader of Reclaim, and Lawrence will decide what he wants to do. And so you must ask Lawrence. I speak to Lawrence, I have a nice drink with Lawrence. He's great company. He's brilliantly passionate about free speech and the woke wallies and the culture wars. Yeah. And I hugely admire what he's doing there. But
you need to merge, surely, don't you? Reform, Reclaim, they're even similar names.
Well, at the moment, I'm focused on what we're doing.
Okay.
But I get on well with Lawrence. But that's the plan. So, we're full steam ahead. We're going to have candidates anywhere. Look, people understandably have said, are you going to stand down in favour of the Tories at the end? No, absolutely not. We've done that. We've got a lot of grief for it. We had to do it for a specific reason. That's not going to happen again. And democracy is better when people have got more choice, Tim. And of course, it's difficult with first past the post. We all know that.
Yeah.
But if you've got more choice, you've got more debate, more discussion, then voters have got that range of options. And then I think we've got a genuine chance to shape and influence the debate. And I'm very clear. I think, as a Brexiteer, I want the UK to be a high growth, low tax, almost like Singapore off the coast of Europe. I think we can be an incredibly strong, proud nation in all those different areas. So yeah, we're full on. There'll only be 5 parties, Tim, that have over 500 candidates at the next general. It'll be ourselves, the main 2 parties, and the Liberals and the Greens.
Well, you're very ambitious. So, okay, there's someone watching this video now, Richard, who you've won their heart and head more than you've won my heart and head so far. What do? They go to your website and
they go to our website. It'd be great if they signed up as a registered supporter, and look at the plans so far. We've got more plans we're announcing, and to make things really easy for people, Tim, and yourself included, we thought would be helpful. So we're holding our annual conference at the same time and in the same city as the Conservatives conference, so that people can just walk across the block and if they're disgruntled, they can come to our conference and see some sensible policies. And who knows, there may be 1 or 2 disgruntled Tory MPs that might want to walk across the block as well. So
you in talks with any of them?
Well, I couldn't possibly comment, could I?
Oh, you really are becoming a politician with those sorts of words.
You said I'm ambitious, Tim, and I am absolutely ambitious. I think this country deserves better options. I think we can be so much better run and managed and governed, and what we've got at the moment just isn't good enough.
Well, my experience of wooing people at party conference away from what they were intending to do, good wine and good canapes and sandwiches normally work. So I hope you've got a good caterer. You mentioned, just finally, Richard, you said people could sign up. Can they actually join and give money? Because there have been newspaper reports that you've had problems finding a bank. What's all that about?
Yes, they can sign up and they can give money, and we'd be very grateful for whatever people can afford to help the cause. Yeah. Yes, we had a bank account with Metro Bank, and completely out of the blue, Metro suddenly said, please close your account in 60 days. I mean, utterly extraordinary. I've been in business for 30 years across a dozen countries. I've never, across dozens and dozens of banks, have anybody say, please could you close your account? Someone somewhere at some point said something to someone. And so there was, pressure has been, in a sense, exerted. And look, we've organised alternative arrangements. I have actually written there, it's a really serious point though. If disruptive, new, ambitious political parties, if you can't even open a bank account, Tim, and it's really difficult, really, really difficult, then that's not good for democracy. So I have written to the Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, who's looking at the matter, saying actually, if we can't open accounts with a clearing bank, then the Bank of England should have a section to be able to offer banking services in the same way it does for certain financial services firms. Yeah. Because look, we want to be proud and confident in our democracy, and it's pretty unhelpful if the banks make it really difficult for new parties to be able to.
Did Metro give you any kind of explanation?
No reason whatsoever. Zero.
Well, this is a whole topic for another video, and I hope we will talk again, Richard. But I think the wider issue here is, we see internet companies, just choosing to withdraw services from people and individuals they don't like. And I think any of us, whether you're right, left, or whatever, who care about freedom of debate, will worry when internet banking companies withdraw services from people. So a topic I think we should probably return to.
A topic for another day. But
absolutely.
I've always got a plan B, C, and D, Tim. As a businessman, that's what you should have. So
yeah, well, very good. Well, Richard, thank you for your time today. I wish you best of luck on my terms of becoming the force for keeping the party honest, but not too much luck that you become too big and too successful, I'm afraid. That's my view at the moment. But thank you to Richard. But most of all, thank you for watching this video. I hope you're enjoying the collection of videos we're putting up on YouTube. Do subscribe on the button below so that we move up the algorithms and more people see our content. And do please visit the main Reaction site. On there, you can see lots of articles written by Reaction's team of contributors. And at the moment, you can enjoy a free month subscription to explore and see whether you like what we're producing, just in return for leaving your email address. But from me, Tim Montgomerie, for now, and Richard Tice, thank you very much for watching. Bye.